Seeing the assembly of devotees eagerly waiting to purchase the name, Lord Nityananda first examines each of them to test their qualification. Then he sells them the name by bargaining for his price accordingly. Oh, my dear friends, if you really want to buy this pure holy name, then just come along with me, for I'm now going to meet with this Nityananda Mahajan. Thus you will finally be able to acquire the pure holy name. I'll also take my due commission, and in this way, all three of us will fulfill our desires. Shri Nityananda Prabhu is so extraordinarily merciful. Accepting only one's faith in the holy name, he bestows the topmost divine bliss. When Nitai sees a tear welling in someone's eye upon chanting the name of Gaura, he instantly gives his support to that person. Indeed, he bestows all divine opulences. He gives that person genuine realization of the pure teachings of Sri Krishna, as found in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. While displaying all this inconceivable mercy, he pays no attention to one's caste, material wealth, mundane knowledge, or physical ability. Now, dear friends, please reject all of Maya's entangling snares. If you're a householder, then just remain at your home. If you're renounced, then just live in the forest. Either way, nothing more will trouble you. We no longer need to fear the terrible age of quarrel, for the most merciful Lord Nityananda gives the holy name to anyone and everyone, even to the lowest among men. Bhaktivinoda loudly calls out and proclaims to all, other than the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, there is no shelter. Twelfth canto, please. Twelve. Ready? That's spelled weird. What happened? Wonder how it got spelled like that. Next one, please. Asamskrita krihina rajasa tamasavrita rajaste bhakshayishyanti mlacharajanya rupina Shri Shukuvacha tataschanu dinam dharma Satyam Shaucham Shamadaya Kalena Balena Rajan Nang Shatyahur Balam Smritihi Dampatye Birichur Hetur Mayaiva Vyavaharike Stritve Pumstve Chahiratir Vipratve Sutramevahi Lingameva Shamakyatav Anyonya Patida Karanam Avritya Nyaya Darbalyam Panditye Chapalam Vacha Anadyataya Sadutve Sadutve Damba Evatu Swikare Eva Chodvahe Snanameva prasadanam Durevaryayanam tirtam Lavanyam keshadaranam Udaram bharatavarta Satyatve darshamevahi Daksham kutumba bharanam Yashorte dharmasevanam Prajahi lubdai rajanyer Nirgurnyer dasyudharma bhi Achinna daradravina Yasyanti Giritkananam Shaka Mula Misha Shodra Pala Pushpashpi Bojana Anavrishya Vinangshanti Durbiksha Korapidata Kalir Dosha Nide Rajan Astya Heko Mahanguna Hirtanareva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Parambraje Kriteya Dhyayato Vishnum Tretayam Yajato Mukhai Dvapare Paricharyayam Kaluta Dari Kirtana Sutuvacha Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta Studvanti Divyaistavar Vedai Sangapada Kramo Panashyadair Gayanti Yam Samaga Jnanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam Navidu Surasuraghana Devaya Tasmai Namah Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate Tad Rasamrita Triptasya Natyatra Syadrati Koche Nimna Ganam Yata Ganga Evanam Achuto Yata Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu Purananam Idam Tata Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Panamaham Samskamamalam Gyaram Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyam Vishkritam Tashrin Van Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktiya Vimuchandara Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papra Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tam Namami Harim Param. You go back to 12, 13, 12, 13, 12, I think it is. No. 12, 13, I said. Or 12, yeah, 12, 13, 12. Go forward, please. Go, 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 go. I'm losing ground. Go. There, back. Back. There. Is that verse? No. Forward. Stop. Is that verse correct? Please check it. Check it. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. And Shamalangi, some of the verses seem to be, yeah? Did you find it? It's loading. Could you pull the book? Somebody? Let's see it. It's not there. Is it? Where? No, the verse we're looking at, 12, 13, 15. Yeah. Okay, that's it. It's not in here. What? It's a misprint. It's okay? Translation is wrong. Right. So ours says Srimad Bhagavatam Ishate, but it's Sri Bhagavatam Ishate, right? Go back to the other one that we have. See? It's an example of what I'm talking about. Okay. Sri Guru Puja. Hare Krishna. We have 1 month to memorize all the verses from 11th and 12th canto. So please get cracking. Oh, okay, one more thing. Oh, we'll do it later. Okay. Have a poem for you. Namasheshtam Chariya Vaishnava Seva Nisaya Chari Nistara Chariya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payeche Keba Namasheshtam Nanamapi Shachiputram Sarupam Shri Rupam Dasa Grajamurupari Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Garun Tam Natosmi He Guru Jnanadarina Bando Swananda Data Koranaika Sindo Vrindavana Sinahita Avatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara He Dina Bando Koranaika Sindo Kuru Prasadam Maimanda Mude Laksha Parade Bahupapagade Tatpada Padme Stumatisha Krishna Yadyapi Amara Guru Chaitanyaradas Tatapi Janiye Ami Tanhara Prakash Guru Krishna Rupahai Shastra Pramane Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karina Bhakta Gane Shiksha Guru Ketha Jani Krishna Saru Antaryami Bhakta Shesha Eduriru Naivo Pyavayanchat Patitim Kavayastavesha Ramayushapi Kritam Ridamudas Smaranta Yontar Bahisthanubratam Ashubham Vadunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Vyanakti. Without serving the representative of Krishna, nobody can approach Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunda and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine mercy, wisdom, friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy. so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Sri Chaitanya, I know him also as a plenary manifestation of the Lord. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore, the spiritual master cannot be other than a servant of Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. The relationship of a disciple with his spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Spiritual masters always represent themselves as the humblest servitors of the personality of Godhead, but the disciple must look upon the spiritual master as a manifested representation of Godhead. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the Supersoul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Sri Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govinda Dev Vigraha. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma, for you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. Sir, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Shadma Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Radha Shivasari, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jayam Vishubhat Hamsa Sri Rajakacharya Saraswati Shishniman. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Privrajakajarya Saraswati Shishniman. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Zagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Nam Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navdeep Nam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Nam Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Sambeta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam class in 1 minute and 32 seconds. I just need the first canto. Okay. Do a few verses. You know, Massimo Nasti Papa Ma. That's what I'm going to do for the function.
So that is on the pranam.
Can you? Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Pranam is along
with the translation. Okay.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaur Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Matsamo Nasti Papatmana Paradi Chikashchana Parihare Pilajame Kim Bruve Purushottama Yivatinam Yatha Yunam Chau Yavatau Yatha Mano Viramate Tadvan Mano Me Ramatan Tvayi Umau Skalita Paranam Humireva Valambanam Tvayi Jata Pararanam Tvameva Sharanam Prabho Govinda Balabe Radhe Prartaye Tvang Baham Sada Twadiyam iti janatu Govindo mam tvaya saha Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamritavahani Kripaya nijapadabja Dasyamayam pradiyatam Vande Nanda Vrajastrinam Pararinum Babikshna Yasam Harikato Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Hopefully, during the week, you got a chance to read every day something from Bhagavatam. Good to take time with whomever you're with to hear at least a few shlokas, if not a chapter or so. And we've been discussing the first canto. We're today going to look at, if you're willing, the fourth chapter of the first canto, which is the appearance of Sri Narada. And we had discussed last week some of the history of the Bhagavatam. And at Naimisharanya, which incidentally means the place where nobody blinks, Naimisha, because ostensibly they're leaning into the topic and they don't want to miss even one syllable, so they don't close their eyes even to moisten the eye. They just stay fixed. That's the mood of hearing. It's indicative of somebody who's advancing on the spiritual path. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbha says that one can ascertain for oneself how one's advancing on the path of bhakti by one's eagerness to hear. And the sages thereafter asked various questions of Sutta Goswami, whom they had established as the leader of the assembly. Vetatam samya tat sarvam tattvastadunugrahat bruyu snigdasya shishyasya guravo kuyamapyuta. They had told him that we accept you because of your having submissively heard from your gurus, and your mood is proper. Saumya means you're soft-hearted, submissive, open to hear. And they felt very comfortable then, having established him as the speaker, to ask him various questions. They had asked him about how the Lord appears in the world. And in the last chapter, we're treated to a list of some of the avatars, those literally who cross down to this realm, even though they're from the transcendental realm. They come here to display their pastimes. And when they do so, Mananugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusham Deham Astitaha, the verse I'm quoting now pertains to Krishna, Manusham Deham Astita, even he comes, Swayam Bhagavan, the source of all the avatars. And because of that, we have someone to meditate on. His activities are transcendental. And so are all the avatars. In fact, benediction is given there in the last chapter that if you recite the appearance of these avatars of the Lord in the morning and the evening, then you'll no longer be subjected to the miseries of life. Simple formula, but someone may say, well, I don't have time for all that, which is compared to someone trying to cut a tree with a dull axe, being asked to take a moment to sharpen it and saying, I don't have time for that either. And in chapter 4, we're hearing directly about the appearance of Narada Muni. And the first verse in this chapter is noteworthy. It's good to mark down. It gives a definition of realization, and it helps us to understand the mode of teaching the Bhagavatam to others. So I'll read this verse. Vyasuvacha iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirga satrinam ridha kula pati sutam ba vricha shaunako ravit. So Vyasa uvacha, Vyasadeva said, iti is a quotation mark, bruvanam, speaking samstuya muninam. This is on hearing Sutta Goswami speak, Shaunaka Muni, who is the elderly learned leader of all the rishis engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Satrinam, those engaged in the performance of sacrifice, Vridha, elderly, Kulapati, head of the assembly, Sutam, under Sutta Goswami, Bahuricha, learned, Shaunakaha, of the name Shaunaka, Abravit. In a meeting of learned men, when there are congratulations or addresses for the speaker, the qualifications of the congratulator should be as follows. He must be the leader of the house and an elderly man. He must be vastly learned also. Sri Shaunaka Rishi had all these qualifications, and thus he stood up to congratulate Sri Sutta Goswami when he expressed his desire to present Srimad Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from Shukadeva Goswami and also realized it personally. Personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous acharya. He must have full confidence in the previous acharya, and at the same time, he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a suitable manner. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. The leader of the assembly, Shaunaka, could estimate the value of the speaker, Sri Sutta Goswami, simply by his uttering yata ditam and yata mati, and therefore he was very glad to congratulate him in ecstasy. No learned man should be willing to hear a person who does not represent the original Acharya. So the speaker and the audience were bona fide in this meeting where Bhagavatam was being recited for the second time. That should be the standard of recitation of Bhagavatam so that the real purpose can be served without difficulty. Unless this situation is created, Bhagavatam recitation for extraneous purposes is useless labor both for the speaker and for the audience. Shonaka uvacha, sutta sutta mahabhaga, varano varatam vara, katam bhagavatim punyam yad aha bhagavan chukaha. Shonaka uvacha, Shonaka speaking, sutta sutta, O Sutta Goswami. That's nice, sutta sutta. Mahabhaga, the most fortunate. Vada, please speak. Na, unto us. Vadatam, of those who can speak. Vada, respected. Katam, message. Bhagavatim, of the Bhagavatam. Punyam, pious. Yat, which. Aha, said. Bhagavan, greatly powerful. Shukaha. Shonaka said, O Sutta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage, Shukadeva Goswami. Prabhupada's purport. Sutta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shonaka Goswami out of great joy, because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of Bhagavatam uttered by Shukadeva Goswami. They were not interested in hearing it from a bogus person who would interpret it in his own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Such impersonalists twist some meanings out of Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views. And the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to misexplain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastimes. Neither of these reciters are bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Shukadeva Goswami, and only those who are prepared to hear Shukadeva Goswami and his representative are bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 3. Kasmin yuge pravrityeyam stane va kena hetuna kutta sanjodita Krishna kritavan samitan muni. Kasmin, in which yuge, period, pravrita, was begun, iyam, this, stane, in the place, va, or kena, on what, hetuna, ground, kutta, wherefrom, sanchodita, inspired by, Krishna, Dvaipayana Vyasa, Kritavan, compiled Samhitam, Vedic literature, Munihi, the learned. In what period and what place was this first begun, and why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Purport. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is a special contribution of Srila Vyasadeva, there are so many inquiries by the learned Shonaka Muni. It was known to them that Srila Vyasadeva had already explained the text of the Vedas in various ways up to the Mahabharata for the understanding of less intelligent women, Shudras, and fallen members of the family of twice-born men. Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all of them because it has nothing to do with anything mundane. So the inquiries are very intelligent and relevant. Tasya putro mahayogi samadrin nirvikalpakaha ekanta matir unidro gudho mudha iveyate. Tasya, his, putra, son, mahayogi, a great devotee, samadrik, equibalanced, nirvikalpakaha, absolute monist, ekantamati, fixed in monism or oneness of mind, unidra, surpassed nescience. Gudha, not exposed. Mudha, stunned. Iva, like. Iyate, appears like. His, Vyasadev's son, was a great devotee, an equibalanced monist, whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and thus he remained always alert, not to be trapped by the illusory energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, this alertness is very lucidly explained. The liberated soul and the conditioned soul have different engagements. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like a dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine the actual engagements of the liberated soul. When the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. A conditioned soul and a liberated soul may apparently be on the same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in sense enjoyment or in self-realization. The conditioned soul is absorbed in matter, whereas the liberated soul is completely indifferent to matter. This indifference is explained as follows. So we're hearing about Shukadev, Vyasadev's son. He was fully detached from the material world. And the next verse, after I read this, then we'll have some discussion. Drishvanu yantam rishim atmajam apyanang nagnam dveyo riya haridadur na sutasya chitram tad viksha pritshati manau jagadus javasti stri pumbida natu sutasya vivikta drishte. Drishta, by seeing Anu Yantam, following Risham, the sage, Atmajam, his son, Api, in spite of Anagam, Anagnam, not naked, Devya, beautiful damsels, Riya, out of shyness, Paridadu, covered the body, Na, not Sutasya, of the sun, Chitram, astonishing, Tat Vikshya, by seeing that, Pritshati, asking, Munau, unto the Muni, Vyasadeva, Jagadu replied, Tava, your, Asti, there are, Sri Pum, male and female, Bida, differences, Na, not, two, but, Sutasya, of the sun, Vivikta, purified, Drishte, of one who looks. While Srila Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them, made no distinction between male and female, but the sage made such distinctions. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 5.18, it is said that a learned sage looks equally on a learned and gentle brahmana, a chandala, dog-eater, a dog or a cow, due to his spiritual vision. Srila Shukadeva Goswami attained that stage. Thus he did not see a male or female. He saw all living entities in different dress. The ladies who were bathing could understand the mind of a man simply by studying his demeanor, just as by looking at a child one can understand how innocent he is. Shukadeva Goswami was a young boy, 16 years old, and therefore all the parts of his body were developed. He was naked also, and so were the ladies. But because Shukadeva Goswami was transcendental to sex relations, he appeared very innocent. The ladies, by their special qualifications, could sense this at once, and therefore they were not very concerned about him. But when his father passed, the ladies quickly dressed. The ladies were exactly like his children or grandchildren, yet they reacted to the presence of Vyasadeva according to the social custom, because Srila Vyasadeva played the part of a householder. A householder has to distinguish between a male and a female. Otherwise, he cannot be a householder. One should therefore attempt to know the distinction between body and soul without any attachment for male and female. As long as such distinction is there, one should not try to become a sannyasi like Shukadeva Goswami. At least theoretically, one must be convinced that a living entity is neither male nor female. The outward dress is made of matter by material nature to attract the opposite sex and thus keep one entangled in material existence. A liberated soul is above this perverted distinction. He does not distinguish between one living being and another. For him, they are all one and the same spirit. The perfection of this spiritual vision is the liberated stage, and Srila Shukadeva Goswami attained that stage. Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, but because he was in the householder's life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul as a matter of custom. And now we'll take some questions or reflections. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, the last purport, Maharaj, it says that Vyasadeva was situated in Grihastha ashram, but Sukadeva Goswami was in Sannyas ashram. But if you see Lord Chaitanya's Sannyas Leela, you see he was very strict with women. He did not even want to hear their names. So externally he showed very restraint to deal with women or kings as a sannyasi. But in this case it is said that, okay, a sannyasi can easily deal with. I did not understand that part. If you can actually clarify a little bit.
It's a specific circumstance. We know that Shukadeva had already been liberated within the womb. Krishna had to come and convince him that it's okay to come out. But when he came out, he didn't take any chances. And anupetam, apeta krityam, dvaipayano viraha kartara jubha. Apeta krityam, he left without any of the formalities of taking the sacred thread or what to speak of sannyas. So the idea of sannyas here is not the varnashram version. It's the sense of him having categorically understood. I say understood because there's a way in which a true sannyas, not he who lights no fire, performs no work, is one who knows how to engage everything properly. And the sang means complete. Nyasa means where you place something. Like when you put on tilak, it's a nyasa. It goes here, 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 you know. And so there's a way in which a person who is oriented towards Krishna and sees Isavasyam idang sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magradaka sasudanam, that all energies belong to Krishna. He understands the tattva. Tat means a particular category of energy one can point to. That's a demonstrative pronoun. You could say that is as described in the Vishnu Purana. There are different categories of energy. Tritiya Shaktirishate. 3 categories: internal, external, and marginal. So somebody who knows those perfectly then isn't obligated to come under their control because he has understood that, as is described here in this purport, Prabhupada alludes to Vidyavinaya Sambhane Brahmaniga Vihasani, seeing the combination of matter and spirit. It doesn't see a male body, a female body, sees beyond that. So that was the position of Shukadeva Goswami. And Vyasadeva, although he's Vyasadeva, still he was participating in the Varnashram, or society, Shukadeva had opted out. He signed the form, the opt-out form. Vyasadeva, even though he's an incarnation of the Lord, hadn't. So there was a sense of the position of the two of them being different, is perceivable by the maidens who were bathing. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Maharaj. I just want to add one thing, Maharaj. Can it be said that because Sukadeva Goswami was in the Paramahansa Avaduta stage, so the external rules and regulations of sannyas and other varnashrama,
Shukadeva.
yes, it's not subject to him. He's beyond it.
Yes. That's one of the verses in the 11th canto that we're just looking at now. What is it? How does that start?
Evang swartha parartha nishtha.
No. Just grab the shloka book really quick. When there's a shloka to be had, you should grab it as quickly as you possibly can. It mentions, Krishna mentions there in the 11th canto that until one tavat karma kurvita nan nirvidyeta yavata matkata shravanadova sharayavan najayate, means tavat, until that time that one is liberated, one must participate in the varnashrama. But when one's come to the transcendental stage, it's not dependent on that anymore. Another question, 1, 2.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Just a curious question. I was a bit surprised with the woman's ability to ascertain the Sukadeva Goswami's equal vision. So, unless a person is self-realized, it's very difficult to ascertain the qualities of the great souls. Just wondering how they were able to make a differentiation between.
It's not, in this case, it's not an intellectual exercise. He wasn't given an SAT or anything like that. It's a natural or visceral experience when one meets somebody who's advanced spiritually. And it's perceivable in the effect that they have on us. For instance, in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the mention of by Prithu Maharaj, that those who have purity of heart and speak have a different effect. The speech has a different effect on us than somebody else. As the sound that we make carries our consciousness. And we can perceive that and feel it. Therefore, we find when Prabhupada would meet audiences, people would feel compelled just by his presence. Once in Washington, D.C., I was there with a couple of godbrothers distributing books, and Prabhupada was to fly in, and this serviceman had purchased a book, and we told him that the author's coming in. And then all the devotees were there waiting for him at the gate, and there was a crowd, and when Prabhupada got off the plane, although his stature, materially speaking, seemed to be slight, as someone might say from a material point of view, he was short. There was a electricity in the air, so much so that the serviceman who was nearer to the back, he stood up on one of the chairs to see as Prabhupada came in, and then he saw the other devotees offer their obeisances, and he jumped off the chair and made obeisance on the ground. What commanded that was the ambiance created. And you could see that he wasn't educated in the spiritual science, but there's a natural way in which people can feel the presence of somebody who's spiritually advanced. We had here and then there. I mean, Brajarath Bhavana and then Mukharavina, not here and then there.
May I ask 2 questions?
You may ask two.
The first one, so it says...
but it'll cost a little extra.
It said, I think Sudha Goswami said that Shukadev Goswami was an equibalanced monist, and in that, and I think the point was made in the next verse about how he was like this equibalanced monist because he saw everyone as the soul inside them. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he brought up this philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. Is the Bhagavatam, was like Shukadev Goswami in that same spirit where he also believed in that kind of philosophy, or did he have or did he not specify an outlook? Like, did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu make that distinction, or was that always there in the Bhagavatam?
That distinction means?
The Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, like explicitly mentioning that it's one and different.
Did Lord Chaitanya?
Did he bring that up from his own understanding of the Bhagavatam, or was that
are you when you say he, who are you
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Did he take that out of the Bhagavatam himself?
It's an eternal truth.
Eternal truth.
Yeah. As we find that there are various acharyas who brought up various versions of the understanding of our relationship, that is the soul's relationship. As is mentioned in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, tree of the body, on the tree of the body, two birds. If you listen to the Mayavad version, they'll say, okay, well, there's two birds until the eating bird on the tree, which represents the living entity, and the witnessing bird, which represents the super soul, Krishna, in the body. When that eating bird comes to full knowledge, then he realizes, oh, I am the other bird. But the acharyas, most notably, are emphasizing that there's a difference, and they do it in nuanced ways. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as if a symphony director, bringing those various conceptions to a perfect pitch and complete understanding that's assimilatable and practicable for everyone. And you'll find in the Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu the various relationships that we have with Krishna. The Shantaras, as described in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu and also the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Lord Chaitanya is describing the different levels of relationship or rasa that living entities have with Krishna, just describes Shantaras, which is he describes as foundational, because there's a way in which at that point one understands asango hyayam purushaha, I have nothing to do with the material world. However, there isn't yet the impetus as a separate, although at the simultaneously one entity with Krishna to do service. That comes in the next level of Dasya Ras. So we find here this transformation. It's demonstrative in the beginning of the Bhagavatam and very purposeful, because Shukadev Goswami was so detached from the material world, and this is leading up to the most important verse in this series of Atmaramas Chamunayo, Nigranta Apyurukrame, that although he had nothing to do with the material world, and this is being proved over and over again in his relationship here in this verse that we ended on, that not only did he not see the difference between male and female, but they noticed it in him also. What to speak of if you hear him talk in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, you don't need a plate. What do you need a plate for? Just use your hand. Bed? Just sleep on the ground. I mean, who could be more detached? He didn't even have clothes. He wasn't checking out the latest styles, not even, how big his shika was or anything like that. It was just not interested. And so the Bhagavatam is pointing out, Nigranta Aprurukrame, that it starts from this level of Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Nashochati Nakangshati Samak Sarveshi Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. From that position, liberated position, then one can properly enter into bhakti. Shradhanvitno Nashunu Yadata Varna Yedya, as described in the 10th canto, in the last verse of the Uddhava Gita section. If Vikriditam Brajabadurbiraham cha Vishnu Shadhanvitona Shinu Yadatavarna Yedya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hridrogamashva Pahinotya Charinatira. That those who have become foundationally situated in this liberated state, Shadhanvito, they have a clear idea that I'm not part of the material world at all. And then by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, the activities of Krishna in his relationship with the devotees in Vrindavan, very specifically here, Rajavadu, the gopis, then one can bhaktim param, one can be elevated to the highest level of bhakti. So starting from that liberated stage, Shukadeva Goswami then demonstrated that devotional service is beyond the modes of material nature, because he was beyond the modes of material nature. It was Mukaravind, right? Yes. Oh, second question. 2 for the price of 1.
In the first verse's purport, it talks about it talks about realization, and I was thinking of it from, like, let's say from the second person perspective, where if I'm to hear someone or to read someone's book, how do I know that the original text is maintained if I don't fully understand the original text myself?
Just as in any epistemological context, one has to see who are the stewards of that. And as an example, some of our acharyas have pointed out that some of the Mahabharata has been interpolated, and therefore you'll find different versions. There's the South Indian version, and then there's a North Indian version. Somehow over time there's slight tweaks here and there culturally. But then someone may say, well, hey, wait a minute, Bhagavad Gita is there. So what about that? And the answer that Radhika Raman Prabhu gave to that question when he was here is that that's been under the watchful eye of all the acharyas. There's not one acharya who hasn't commentated upon the Bhagavad Gita. It goes for Srimad Bhagavatam also. It's been watched very carefully. In fact, anytime there is a slight variation in any of the verses, which you'll find in the 6th canto and a few other places, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta will point out sometimes people say it like this, although it doesn't have any difference in meaning, but they're very careful, they're meticulous about pointing that out. So those who are the protectors of the message, the members of the disciplic succession and sampradaya, that is their business of representing it and carrying it forward in its perfect form. And so in any knowledge system, you could ask the same question. How do you know this has been passed down properly? And even in science, you'll find that there are checks and balances to some degree with those who are charged with passing it along. And there are certain markers that say, these are the tenets of the science that you're studying right now based on such and such and so and so. Thank you.
Maharaj, thank you so much. One of the answers that you're giving, that how when pure devotee speaks, that has different effect on the audience. So I have a question that Srila Prabhupada, before, I'm just giving an example, like Srila Prabhupada before coming to United States, he did preaching everything in India, but it was not having any tangible results. But the same thing when he did after coming here, there was so much tangible results. So what has changed? I don't think so Prabhupada is the same when he was in India, when he's here. So how does the speech make difference when he was in India and when he came?
Well, Prabhupada points out, he gives this example, as do the acharyas, that in order for conception to take place, there's a way that the male must be potent and the female must be fertile. Otherwise, if one is missing, then it's not going to produce a child. So in a similar way, although a pure devotee may speak, it's not that everyone's rushing to hear that class. When Krishna was there in Pravas, there was only Uddhava, because although he was on his way to liberate the members of, what's that, way up north? Vaisesika. He circled back because he couldn't be without Krishna's association. He knew he was leaving the planet, so he went back to hear more. And then Maitreya came along. Two people. There's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there were two listening. And so the person has to be open and interested in hearing. And that goes back to Shraddhanvito Nashrindo Yadata Varna Yedya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam. Shraddhanvito means that the faith has to be properly formed. Krishna mentions this in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He said, Shraddhayayam Purushaha, that every person is made of his or her faith. That's who you are. Nahi kashit shanamapi jatutishchatya karma krit karete havasha karma sarva prakriti jargunai. He says nobody can stop acting according to their nature in this world, even for a second. Even just fall asleep and you're still going to be whatever's going on because of your conditioned nature, that's just going to go. And you can't stop it at any time, Krishna says. And so there's a way in which those who Yesham Tontakatam Papam Jananam Punyakarmanam Te Dvandva Mohanir Mukta Bhajantimam Dridavrata. Those who have evolved and come to a point where they have some punya, bhakti unmukhi sukriti, they're interested, they want to hear it. Other people are not so much. I mean, you can experience this, go around and distribute the Bhagavad Gita in different places. Try downtown San Francisco. It's a little harder than, where'd you go recently where it was easy? You go to the Grand Canyon. And it's a little more natural setting and people are there on vacation or whatever. Like, oh, wow, I'll take it. So, yeah, it's dependent on both. Who is next before Bali? Oh, yeah, it's Vakunta Nayaka Prabhu and then Bali Mardan Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam, Guru Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Maharaj, we read in the purport about realization, where Srila Prabhupada says realization is about presenting the same truth in a way that the audience can connect. And you also talked about sannyasa, of not being, in the rigid sense of the varnashram, not giving up things. And you mentioned how we have to use sannyasi uses everything for Krishna. So I guess this idea of yukta vairagya and phalgu vairagya, this is what we are talking about, I believe. So I had a question on this, because I met one Orthodox Brahmin in Mysore, and we were discussing, and he was taking great pride in saying, in our kitchen we use firewood. We don't actually, and we are just doing it the traditional way. And his logic was that if we deviate a bit, that one deviation will lead to another deviation, and in some time you don't even realize how much you have changed, that it does not look like the original thing at all. So my question was that this yukta vairagya, phalgu vairagya, how do we find the balance? How do we know that, okay, this is a departure we are doing, which is bona fide, which will be accepted, while this kind of departure which we are doing from our predecessors is not really authorized, right? While that firewood example seems extreme, I did see some value in what he said, that how to retain the authenticity of the movement. So if you could kindly highlight on this.
Yes, thank you, Vaikuntha Naya, for such an important question. And really, it's the theme of the questions of the sages at Naimasaranya. find they're asking, Urini Buddhi Karmani Shotavyani Vibhagasha Ata Sadyo Trayatsaram Samudrita Madishaya Bruhi Bhadraya Bhutanam Amritat Vayakalpate. They ask that there's so many scriptures and so many ideas about what to do and what not to do. Purini Buddhi Karmani Shotavyani Vibhagasha. You hear all these things. So he said, tell us the essence. What's the main thing that we're supposed to do? And that comes as Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo, Yato Bhakti Radhoksaje, Haitukya Pratiyataya, Yayat Masu Prasidati. That one should render unmotivated, uninterrupted service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the gold standard. And we find so many examples in the Bhagavatam where this is being starkly pointed out. For instance, when Krishna and his friends are in the forest, and his friends say, Krishna, we're hungry. We need a little something. And he says, stop in and ask the brahmanas. They're getting ready to perform a sacrifice. There's plenty of food being prepared. It's an okay time right now to ask for it. And so they went in, and the brahmanas ignored the children, even though Krishna had said, you go in and ask, not in my name, because I'm a Vaishya. Ask in Balaram's name, he's a Kshatriya, so they may honor that. And they didn't honor anything. They didn't even acknowledge the boy's existence. They didn't even say anything. They pretended they didn't exist. And these are supposed to be the ones who are the protectors of the Vedic system. And then when they go to the wives of the Brahmins, the wives are perfectly pure devotees. So the boys just mention the name of Krishna and Balaram, and by that part of the sentence, they're already gathering together everything and running to the forest to make offerings to Krishna because they've understood the absolute truth. So if one misses, as the Bhagavatam points out, the purpose of the Bhagavatam, just as another example, when Romaharshan, he knew everything. And we do meet people like that, right? It's like, yeah, I know everything. He actually did know everything, except the main thing, or the most important thing, which is who's Krishna, who's God. He didn't know that part. Neither did Jarasandha. He was a highly learned Vedic scholar, and he did all the mantras, and he used all the right wood, but he tried to kill Krishna. And so the Bhagavatam over and over again is saying, don't miss the point. And what is the essence? So when we get down to that, presenting the essence is the business of the acharyas, and those who represent the acharyas is to bring what is most important. And yena tena prakarina mana Krishna niveshayat. There's a way in which one, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, man mana bhavama bhakto, just think of me, and know how to do that. So one may have the right wood and then forget Krishna. One may have the wrong wood and remember Krishna. Which one's better? Oma pavitra pavitrova sarvavastan katopiva yasmaret pundarikaksham sabhaya pyantara shuchihi. One may be in any weird condition of life, and there are lots of weird conditions of life. But if you remember Krishna, then you become purified inside and out. So we have to know which aspects to emphasize of the Vedas, and that all comes out in the Bhagavatam, which is giving the very essence of all the Vedas. That's the point. And Bali Mardan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So I have one reflection and a question. So let me go with the reflection. So I think comparing also by Vaikuntha Nayak Prabhu and Brajraj Bhavan. So in Jagannath Puri, there is a book called Madala Panji, which is the sections which describes about even the menu of Lord Jagannath, what item, let's say one dal, then what kind of spices to be used, it has been described and various things. So it has given also some psychology and some of the extracts coming from Garud Puran. He tells about the psychology of the animals. By seeing, you will know their mood. For example, by seeing the tongue of the snake, you know that he's going to bite or not. By seeing the movement of the tail, you can see the joyousness of a dog. And by seeing the movement of the head of a cow, Chatuspadi, then you will know that what is the movement. So basically, when you go for a driver training in India, they tell you that if the cow or goat is heading, then they will come brake your car because there is no signal. So this gives some anecdote on that. So the reason I'm saying about Vyasadev's and Sukadeva Goswami's observation by the woman. So actually it is mentioned in Vishwanath Chakravarti's the Tika also. He has said, because the woman sees the movement of Vyasadev's leg got stopped when he saw the naked woman in the pond. That means he was, and Sukadeva Goswami is going freely. There was no movement of checking of his leg movement. But Vyasadeva got stopped. He said, my God, I came into the wrong place. So that means he made the distinction. And by that movement, and that triggered from the movement of the leg, that triggered to his mind and the face and the eyes, that reflected the woman to react what, they wanted to cover up themselves. That was the whole episode of these things. How, because they are not a psychologist or something by seeing, he's Vyasadeva, he's Sukadeva Goswami, but by the movement of the body and the gesture in the mind that reflected them. So one of my question is, as it has been said in Prabhupada's many purport, the 10,000 years, the movement will stop, means the last ISKCON and all. So is Bhagavatam, the book or Bhagavatam knowledge, is going to stay after those 10,000 years, or that will return end of the Kali Yuga, or people will have the opportunity of the Bhagavatam book, because we are doing so much Bhadra campaign. So it is an opportunity until 10,000 years, or post end of Kali Yuga, the Bhagavatam book or the knowledge will remain. Just what is your insight?
Well, I don't have my own insight, but the Brihat Bhagavatamrita discusses how Bhagavatam is an eternal vibration. It just gets represented. It's always there. And it's the prerogative of Krishna and his devotees to make it available at the right times in human society. So that's why it's worth the effort, especially now in Kali Yuga. Things seem to be moving along quite nicely in the Kali Yuga. So it's hard to predict. Well, it's not hard to predict. We're reading the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam now and getting a lot of predictions that seem to have already manifested. And so Krishna is always available. The devotees are always available somewhere. Sometimes, as Bhagavatam says, sometimes they speak. This is in the section of the descriptions of autumn. It's mentioned just as a waterfall. Sometimes it pours forth water, other times it's silent, it doesn't have any water. So similarly, the great devotees, sometimes they're speaking and it's pouring forth. And at other times they remain silent according to the circumstances. So it really depends on Krishna's will and how it unfolds. If you want that service, you can probably put in for it. Stick around for 10,000 years and see how it goes. Interesting things will happen, I'm sure. Okay. Yes. Right?
So this was a question which was asked online to an earlier class. The question is,
what is the difference between perfect knowledge and complete knowledge, since no one ever knows Krishna completely, but apparently can know him perfectly?
It's somewhat semantic, the difference, although we do like to use semantics to expand the glorification of the Lord at different levels, like there's perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. That description of how Dwarka is perfect, Mathura is more perfect, and Vrindavan is the most perfect. And if there's a reference to the different, if there's a reference the person is referring to of complete and perfect, I would answer the question based on the reference, on the context of that. Although you could just say that every level of Krishna consciousness, I mean, everybody's Krishna conscious to some degree. There's Annamoy, Pranamoy, Manomoy, Gyanamoy, Vijnanamoy, Anandamoy. There are these different levels of consciousness of living entities in different bodies that the Shastra describes, and they're all levels of connection to Krishna. A plankton in the ocean is connected to Krishna, the soul within that body of a plankton, by eating, although at a very minimal level. And a human being who has come in contact with devotional service is at another level altogether. And so there may be complete knowledge, as Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kasyad yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kashyin mambiti tatvata. He says, out of millions of people, hardly one is interested in spiritual life, and of those who are practicing spiritual life, even somebody might have a conception of the material world's not my home, I'm not my body, and so forth, but it's not perfect. And that's one of the discussions in the 5th chapter that we're coming to. When Narada Muni meets Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva is not satisfied with what he's done so far. And he's given, for many, a complete explanation of spiritual life. But it's not perfect. Naishkarm yam apyachuta bhava varjitam nashobate jnanam alam niranjanam kutak puna shast bhadramishvare nacharpitam karma yarapyakaranam. This is one of the points that Narada makes to Vyasadeva. He said, okay, you've talked about Naishkarmyam. That, okay, here's how you escape the material world and the obligation to work according to karma. Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjina nashobate jnanam alam niranjanam. You also may have this conception of that you're not your body and so forth. He said, but that's not perfect because it's not beautiful. And unless it's beautiful by being connected to achuta bhava, meaning that you have love for Krishna, then whatever level of so-called completeness that you've achieved, yenevra vindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avashudha budaya aruya krishena paramparam tata vatantyato nadrita yushmarangraya. By the standard of the Srimad Bhagavatam, by other people's standard it may be complete, but Bhagavatam says it's not perfect. And if it's not perfect, it's not going to hold. His soul wants perfect. And the only way to get that is to get Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So when I was in Kanpur last week, I quoted this verse, Naishkarmyam api achuta bhava varjitam, and Mahakumbha Mela was starting practically that same day, same week. And so a devotee asked quite intelligently that although this is the verse which is mentioned in Bhagavatam, why is it that at a festival like Mahakumbha Mela there's such a high density of people more inclined towards an impersonal philosophy rather than a personalist philosophy?
It's rarer. Manushyanam sahasreshu kashid yatiti siddhaye. There are gradations of people who are interested in spiritual life. And siddhana means only the perfect ones come to complete knowledge, and then perfect knowledge. So the impersonal conception means that you haven't got the rarefied association of pure devotees. And that's a great fortune, because only by the association of those who have complete knowledge and also a complete relationship with Krishna can we also be elevated to that position. So it's rarer. And the impersonal conception is more or less the default mode for the material world. I mean, Krishna says that himself, because Arjuna asks him in the 12th chapter, which is better? And then Krishna says, Klesho dikartarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavadbir avapyate. Personal conception is better. The other one really is a lot of trouble for nothing and a lot of suffering involved. He said, but if somehow or other you can stick it out in the impersonal conception over a long period of time, although it's very troublesome, if you're really, really, really lucky, you can come to the personal conception. So we're under the banner of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who miraculously gave out this personal conception to the masses, and even to people that seemed unqualified. Anarpita charim chirat karuna yavatirna kalau. Lucky thing it's Kali Yuga. He came and said, oh, just give it out for free. What's he giving out? The personal conception of worshiping God as Radha and Krishna and as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So although it's really, really rare, in Kali Yuga you can get it wholesale. Because Lord Nityananda, we just read, he's giving it out wholesale. He opened a wholesale market to give out that personal conception. And you see it because you go in Sankirtan. I mean, most people have no idea what's going on. They're just getting ready to go watch a football game. And what does that mean? They're just immersed in the modes of material nature, have no idea. But when you come walking along and say, hi, and we have photographic evidence of people going to buy a 6-pack of beer, go to the game, and they end up with a Bhagavatam set instead. You just imagine what happens when they come home. Okay, where's the beer? Larry? Larry's like, I don't know, I get this instead. Let's open it up and see what's in there. And somebody who gets that, miraculously, and we find Bhakta Larry's all over the planet, or Bhakta Dilip, or whomever it is, wasn't even at an impersonal conception of God, just going to get a 6-pack of beer and ended up with a Bhagavatam set. And the association of devotees at a festival, they'd run into Vishnu Jana and his kirtan festival and just say, hey, it's a party, let's jump in. And next thing you know, they're taking prasad and somebody's sitting with them and they say, hey, what is this anyway? Like, yeah, we just eat and dance, and next day they're at a Bhagavatam class, and one thing leads to another. This is the potency of devotional service. So yeah, most people have incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. And that's what Prabhupada says, that this is the problem. And that's the problem that Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva. He's saying, I understand your strategy here. I see where you're trying to go with this. You don't want to alienate anybody, right? Because most people, this is the point. When you're teaching Krishna consciousness anywhere, where the rubber meets the road is God a person or not? And you may notice this, everyone may notice this when you're teaching. Do you want to actually bring that up? I mean, when do you bring it up? When are you going to broach the subject? Like, you can use all kinds of nomenclature to talk about spirit and matter and this and that. I gave a class recently somewhere, and then one of my god siblings came up and said, "You should talk more about the personality of Godhead." And I felt like Vyasadeva and Narada Muni. Because that's just what's going on here. Vyasadev's trying to like, yeah, so there's energies and, this and that. It's like, yeah, but, move it along. And not many people have that in the material world. If it weren't for the pure devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada boldly coming and presenting in such a way that people have access to this, not just the knowledge, but also the practice. And then it becomes ingrained in people's hearts. Devotees practice, and then they wonder, is this real? They go to Vrindavan, they have an experience for themselves, and they say, it's real. And there's an evolution. So we're creating, by the mercy of the disciplic succession, a wave of this perfect knowledge so that people can take to pure devotional service, which means have a relationship in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, we have 2 last questions that I'm going to answer in under a minute each, and first one goes to Yashoda Kripa.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. So the last point that you mentioned about preaching and bringing the Krishna's name at the right point, this is something I personally struggle with. And over the time, I have realized that maybe I was just not doing justice with keeping Krishna's name or direct preaching or direct name in the background, because coming to the conversation between Vyasadeva and Narada, we see that it's most influential, most impactful if we directly bring and glorify Krishna's name. So how do I strike a balance between the two when I talk to new people?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's the question. And that's what comes up in the purport that we read, the first verse, purport. Prabhupada said this is the art. This is what's called realization. When you have your own realization, to the degree that you have realization, you can give context to people. And that's how I would describe the process of bringing up the personality of God in all this, is making sure that you build enough context so that it doesn't alienate them. Because when you even use nomenclature and you assume they know what it means, you can alienate them. So in teaching, you have to notice the audience, what their frame of reference is, and then describe it using analogy and assuming nothing. Assume they don't know anything. And when we speak like that, oftentimes people then begin to appreciate. And also, I just say as a principle that I've noticed is that it's kind of fun to take risks and cross that line, even if you think it's slightly premature. Just see what happens. After all, you can always go to another part of the city to preach if it doesn't work out. Find another group. But what we're finding is that when we bring that up, if you're very confident about it and you have your own realization and you speak about it, then people are often charmed. And we've seen that before. We're too reticent, and then people come and they confront us and say, hey, where's the rest of it? And by the way, give me some of those beads, and where's all the other stuff? You guys are hiding something from me. So you can always experiment by bringing it out and noticing what happens. Okay, last point. Mayapur Bihari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, you're talking about Vyasadeva and Narad Muni advising him that all the scriptures are fine, but about Bhagavatam you should write. So similarly, there is a lot of things mentioned in the scriptures, And recently I find that I don't, I mean, everything can be justified. Oh, but this is also mentioned in scripture. Artha, Kama, Moksha, and everything. Recently I find that I personally don't believe much in Jyotish or Vastu. But many more senior devotees than me, many more devotees well versed in scriptures, they are following Vastu so thoroughly I get confused. Am I missing something? And then I feel that, to some other question, that are we diverting? It is chant and be happy, not Vastu and be happy. So, but at the same time, such things are mentioned in the scripture. So, how do we interpret, or what should be our steps while following such things?
That's why we have a Guru Parampara. There's people on the planet that were around Prabhupada. For instance, we just had opportunity to hear from Shrutikirti Prabhu when we were in the GEV. He gave an hour-long lecture, at least an hour long, and there was a sense we got from him, okay, this was Prabhupada's mood. This is how he talked about particular topics. Who would know best? Somebody who was right there. And there are others still walking. Why go to the Veda base immediately or try to extract things in that way without also cross-referencing with people who are actually there? So what you get in a Guru Parampara system is the fleshing out of the entire philosophy in a sense that, yes, there's the intellectual aspect, you can study it in the Shastras and so forth, but then you want to come down to the point of what was the mood? And what did the Acharya say? And how did the Acharya deal with it? And then you have this very stable position of becoming a Stita Deer Muni. The normal Munis are defined as those who always try to find an alternative meaning. It's the same way in academics. If you go into any academic subject, especially English, you're supposed to come out with your own idea about what the poem means, or you read a book and then give a unique explanation about what Dostoevsky was talking about. And that's where you score points. And this is the Muniism of the Veda culture also. You find thousands of Munis, really intelligent people, they come up with a philosophy that's different than somebody else. So they can fly a little flag at Kumbh Mela and say, we have our camp over here. And the Stita Deer Muni has a grounding in the Acharya Upasanam. There's a way in which we worship the Acharyas as the prominent spokespersons for the philosophy, and therefore, when it comes down to, like, okay, modern day ISKCON, and you say, over on this side of the spectrum, with, I'm not going to say any particular things because I don't want to offend anybody, with the V word or with the A word, astrology, Vastu, all these things. It's helpful to say, what was Prabhupada's mood about it? So, for instance, Pradyumna was there. Pradyumna is a scholar. He was Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor. And he traveled with him everywhere he went. So he watched Prabhupada every day, and he knew it. And he also asked questions, thankfully. So he said, Prabhupada, what about astrology? Is it part of our Siddhanta? Prabhupada said, no, it's not part of our Siddhanta, but if you find out it's going to rain, you bring an umbrella. So, yes, but no. I mean, no, but yes. Not so much, but it's there. And if it becomes useful to you to go out and do Sankirtan, because you know you're going to need an umbrella on that day, then that's the application. Not that it's science that will help us to become more Krishna conscious or something like that, necessarily. My main point is that Prabhupada had certain ways of applying all of these principles. And if we just find out what those were and don't try to be more Catholic than the Pope, we'll be in a good position. You don't have to, you shouldn't do less, and you don't have to do more to prove yourself. You have to stick with the main thing. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And that's what the Acharyas do. That's what Prabhupada did. He kept it main. When it came to performing yagyas, Pradyumna talks about how there was information coming in about how to do this way, that way. And he was concerned, so he was asking Prabhupada. This was circa 1975 in Chicago. It was a huge affair there. There were 4 or 5 sets of new Gaur-Nitai deities being installed, 150 devotees getting initiated. All the Radha Damodar buses were there. What's the yajna going to be like? This way, that way, this way. And then he asked Prabhupada, and Prabhupada leaned over and he said, shortcut. So if we find out what the mood is, and we don't do it less and we don't do it more, if Prabhupada said, look into it a little bit more, like with deity worship, he said, I want Hari Bhakti Vilas, but maybe, I forget how many pages, but it was a really truncated amount, like 40 pages or something. Bhakti Vilas has millions of different things you can do. And even in the padditis we have now, when you set up paraphernalia, you do a puja for the bell. You do a puja for the conch. You do a puja for the conch holder. Everything has to have a yantra underneath it. I mean, you could go on forever. And if you start making all the Madhuparka and the Achmaniya and everything like that, I know people have done that. And they didn't have time for anything else. And so Prabhupada emphasized, he said, put Gaur-Nitai in your house, or Panchatattva. And how do you worship him? He said, with Sankirtan. That's keeping the main thing. What was his mood? So being aware of that and not get carried away one way or the other, and also not disrespecting the fact that, there are interesting and important aspects of it, and it can be used, that knowledge can be used for good effect in spreading the Sankirtan movement, then to that degree, take it. That was Prabhupada's mood. So that brings us to the end of our discussion for this morning on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And now we have the lectures by Manasi is here. So let's welcome Visheshwari Leela and Manasi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Vaisesika Maharaj. It's an honor to hear, and hearing from the first canto is something also what we're reading in our reading groups. A lot of questions are being answered, and I'm very grateful that you're touching upon this part of the Bhagavatam. Today we'll be starting a new book that the Kaishara students learned last semester, and this is a book on Dhruva by His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. In this book, he has gone in depth into every scene of the story from Dhruva Maharaj's life. And what I liked personally about this book is it brought out realizations from every dialogue, every episode of Dhruva Maharaj's life, right from the starting. So this is going to grow slowly, the whole series of these presentations. We are going to go into each aspect of it. And today the first chapter will be presented by Manasi. I want to quickly mention that Manasi and Mitra are twins, and they are actually the direct product of Sankirtan. Malini Mataji took a Srimad Bhagavatam set to their home in San Ramon a couple of years ago. And here they are in our temple presenting today. Mitra will present next week. Manasi is going to present this week. Thank you.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, Hare Krishna. My name is Manasi, and I will be presenting chapter 1 from the book Dhruva by Gauranga Darshan Das. Stand up. Okay. Okay, so for context, Dhruva's mother's name is Suniti, his stepmother's name is Suruchi, his father's name is Uttanapad, and his brother's name is Uttama. So the story starts as Dhruva sees his younger brother Uttama playing on his father's lap. And now Dhruva also wants to go and play on his father's lap. But his mother, Suruchi, scolds him very harshly. And she says he's not her son, so he does not have a right to go and play on his father's lap. This is because King Uttanapad favors her. So we learn from this chapter that we should resist the urge to speak stiffly and raise the intensity to speak sweetly. And using pleasing words can make a wonderful world within you. So why not be happy free of cost? And this way you can make others happy too. But Dhruva, he's a little boy. Since Dhruva's a little boy, he didn't understand the difference. And Suniti was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, while Suruchi was proudful and haughty, and she wanted to reserve the throne for her son. Although King Uttanapad was the great-grandson of Brahma, he did not treat both his wives equally. He should have. Still, Suruchi told him that in order to be worthy of sitting on the king's lap, Dhruva must pray to Lord Vishnu to be born from her womb. In reality, Suruchi was just envious of Suniti, and this envy was being projected on Dhruva. We learned that when you envy others for what they have, you forget what you have. So beware of envy. And replacing superiority complex with sensitivity and envy with appreciation wins us more friends. We can get rid of pride by recognizing how blessed others are, and dismiss envy by seeing how blessed you are. As a king and father, King Uttanapad should have acted towards this injustice. However, his favor towards Suruchi led him to remain silent. Dhruva was shattered by his stepmother's harsh words and disappointed by his father's silence. So he was angry and weeping, and he ran to his mother Suniti. We learned that injustice is easy to serve, but it's hard to digest. Loneliness reminds us of the company we had and that which we need. Let's allow others to thrive instead of being oppressive. There is this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that repeats the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Maitreya uvacha matuha sapatnyaha sadrukti vidaha swasan rusadanda hato yatahi hitva mishantam pitaram sanavacham jagama matuha prarudan sakasham. The sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, as a snake when struck by a stick breathes very heavily, Dhruva Maharaj, having been stuck by the strong words of his stepmother, began to breathe very heavily because of great anger. When he saw that his father was silent and did not protest, he immediately left the palace and went to the mother. In the next chapter, we see what happens and what his mother tells Dhruva to do. So in conclusion, we should try to see the good in others instead of holding on to self-righteousness. We shouldn't look down upon those who do not have the same privileges you have, and replace bias and partiality with grace and responsibility. Don't ignore your responsibilities to protect your dependents, at least when you can. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Well done, Manasi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I found that the presentation was dense, and it has so many pearls of wisdom. I was wondering, when you were compiling this, were there any of those pieces of advice that you took to heart when you were looking at it, and thought any of them that you thought, oh, I'd like to apply this particular principle?
Yes, actually. If we look back, I saw loneliness reminds of the company we had and that which we need. I thought I took this advice to heart because when obviously fights happen in regular life, and when I fight with my sister or with my parents or with my friends, I realized that, oh, they were a company that I needed. Why did I fight with them? I should have been nice to them and let them tell me what they had in mind for me.
Just another comment on your presentation. I find that you're well spoken.
Thank you.
Some of the parts you were following the script, and that went well. What went even better was when you were speaking more extemporaneously.
Mm.
You know what that means?
Not really.
Extemporaneously means that you're not following a script, you're just speaking from spontaneously from what you've heard. But your speech pattern is very clear and straightforward. You have a knack for speaking straightforwardly in a way that can be understood. So you have a good future in public speaking, I believe. Good presence.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Manasi.
Hare Krishna.
It was a very good presentation, and especially the slides are very well made. So, from the past time, right, if you see, Uttanapad has favoritism towards his second wife, and then he was not able to be equal towards his sons because of the result of the favoritism, right? So, in general, as in our lives, it is natural for us to be to take favorites, right, from different people. We think that certain people are favorite to me, right? We have better friendships with them, and then because of that, we may mistreat others. We may not demean, but you may not be able to treat people equally. So how do you draw the line? How do we? It's natural to have favorites. At the same time, you don't want to be not equal to others also. So how do we come to a proper understanding on that?
So one thing I've learned from this chapter and from my own experiences is I understand what you're saying. Like you're saying some people you feel more connection towards them than others, and you favor them over being with others. And I've learned that people want to hear specific things that they share with, like, in their own thoughts. So I think we should try to tell people what they want to hear, but at the same time we should keep our own thoughts. So to draw the line, I wouldn't say we had to draw the line, but maybe try to spend time with people and try to understand everyone equally. Because King Uttanapad didn't really try to understand Suniti. He just he favored Suruchi without understanding the importance of his older wife and his older son.
Yes. Shradhama.
Thank you. Very well done, Manasi. And I was just thinking that in the morning, the lecture, Maharaj was talking about Larry who purchases the Bhagavatam. And so it's always so satisfying to see, the efforts of the Harinam Sankirtan folks when devotees like Manasi come and materialize in the temple. So amazing work to the Harinam team, Sankirtan team, as well as to you, Manasi. Again, I agree with everything that everybody said, and I really like the font that you use, especially in the Sanskrit part of it. We were looking for a font for a yatra, so I think I found one in this one. As Maharaj said, that you had so many gems in your presentation, and two that I am going to take away with me today is, one was that be happy at no cost. We are spending, like people are spending billions of dollars to get happiness, and here it was like just by speaking sweetly, and I can know that, if we don't do that, then there are consequences of, long-term consequences. And then also second one is that when you envy, you forget what you have. That was very, very powerful. So thank you for that, and good luck.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions, comments, reflections? Okay. Thank you so much, Manasi, once again.
Thank you.
For all the hard work that you've put. And also want to mention that mixed emotions, her great-grandmother just passed away a few moments ago. So we are dedicating this offering of Srimad Bhagavatam Katha to her and to her great life. And I'm sure that descendants that she has, that coming through you and Mitra, will make her very proud by your dedication to spiritual life. So we pray, say a small prayer, please say in your heart, for her great-grandmother. And also great thanks to their parents, because they got the Bhagavatam and they approached us, they enrolled the students in the Sunday school. And in 6 months, I saw, actually, they missed the first 3 weeks of the Sunday school, but both the daughters, they caught up with all the lessons they missed, and they were so engaged in class. And I'm so grateful for your interest. Obviously, you're coming with a lot of spiritual interest from your past life, and we pray for your success in this life. Thank you. Thank you.
Terminado. Finished? Okay. Now we have, if I'm not incorrect, first grain ceremony for Nitai, right? Nitai Ram? Is Nitai Ram in the house? Then what we're going to do is change our perspective by turning towards the deity, and we're going to set up for the grain ceremony for Nitai Ram Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Bhakta Mayank. Hare Krishna, Srimati Suman. Hare Krishna, Nitai Ram. Ready? Ready. Ready, everybody? This is our first grain ceremony for Nitai Ram Prabhu, who's cheerfully ready for taking first grains. First, we'll start with the invocation. Savana Bhavatu, Savana Bhunaktu, Saviryan Karavavahai, Tejasvinam Aditam Astu Maha Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First grain ceremony, one of the samskars. In other words, there's a way in which every aspect in the development in our lives in this world is accounted for by the system called oftentimes the Vedic system, through which we connect whatever's happening to Krishna. This is not inordinate or unreasonable because everything's connected to Krishna. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena konteya jagadvi parivartate. I'm controlling everything. And those who forget that become noticeably foolish in the way they move about the world. And those who remember it become noticeably harmoniously engaged in their lives. And there's a way in which the human vessel accumulates various impressions from the environment in which such a human lives. The family that we grow up in, the friends that we have, the kinds of events that we attend, the people we associate with, and so forth, they all leave an impression. Therefore, this system of having samskars at the very earliest age, and in this case, at 6 months, how old are you, Nitai Ram? Did he say? 5.5. It's the first time baby wants to have solid food. He gets solid food that's Mahaprasadam, and it comes along with a connection to Krishna. So we're going to recite the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as a way to consecrate this ceremony, Shri Purushottam Yoga, which contains the verse Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. Notably, Krishna says, I am the digestive force. So everyone here who appreciates the digestive force, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. More than we can imagine until you lose it. And so Krishna is so kind that he's there for us in that way. So let's take the time to chant together the 20 verses from chapter 15. Purushottam Yoga Ata Panchadashodayaha. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Urdvamulam Adashakam Ashvatam Prauravyayam Shamdamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedave Adashchurvam Prashritastasya Shaka Guna Pravida Vishaya Pravala Adashamulananasantatani Karmanubandini Manushaloke Narupamasyeha tatopalabhyate Nanto nachadir nachasampratishta Ashvatamenam suvarudhamulam Asanga shastrena dridhena chitva Tatakpadam tat parimargitavyam yasmin katana nirvartanti bhuya tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatak pravriti prashrita purani nirmana moha jita sangha dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvanverva mukta sukha dukha samjar gachantya mura paramavyayam tad na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nirvartante tadama paramam mama mamaivam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manakshasta nindriyani prakriti stani kshate shariram yadavapnoti yachapyukramati grihit vaitani samyati vayurgandhani vashayad shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam eva cha adishtayam manashchayan vishayan upasevate ukramantam stitam vapi bunjanam vagunanvitam vimudhananu pashyanti gyana chakshushaha yatanto yoginaschainam pashyantyatmanyavastitam yatanto pyakritatmano nainam pashyantya chetasaha yadaditya gatam tejo jagad bhasayate kilam yachchandramasi yachshagno tat tejo vidimamakam gam avisha chabhutani darayam yahamojasa pushnami chausadi sarva somo bhutvara satmakaha aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamastitaha pranapana samayukta pachamyanam chaturvidam sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto mataksmitir jnanam apohanam cha vedaishcha sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krid veda vedeva chaham dvavimau purusha loke sharashakshara eva cha shara sarvani bhutani kutasto shara uchyate ukramantam shanya paramatme tyudharita yo loka trayamavisha vibhartavya ishvara yasmat sharamadhitoham aksharadapi chotama atosmi loke vedecha pratita purushottama yo mamevam asambudho janati purushottamam sarvavid prachitimam sarvabhavena bharata iti guyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanaga etad budva buddhiman syad krita krita shabharata om tat saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Srimad Satsu Navavidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottam Yogo Nama Panchadashodhyayaha Hari Om Hare Krishna. And now, Nitai Ram, Prabhu, if you're ready, we'd like to give you first grains. Mahaprasad first grains.
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
My turn?
What?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And now, a very scientific means of divining Nitai Ram's predispositions for either becoming a pundit, a great scholar, or maybe he'll become inclined towards enterprise and developing wealth to help spread the Krishna consciousness movement, or maybe both. Before him, there's a selection of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, also huge stacks of cash. There's golden ornaments and coins, all that glitters is there. And there, Nitai Ram Prabhu, in your great utsahan, enthusiasm, please delight us by making your own free choice of what you'd like, and thus showing your propensity in life. Ooh.
Hare Krishna.
Free choice.
Hare Krishna.
It's easier if you set him up. If he's set, yeah, because the other way it's really hard. There you go.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Bhagavatam. Nitai Ram, very good. Very clear. He reached out his right hand and he indicated very clearly Bhagavatam, especially that's the 10th canto Krishna book. So Nitai Ram Prabhu will be well integrated into the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. He'll become a scholar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He'll be noted for his teaching Bhagavatam with heart and soul around the world, and he'll be especially acquainted with the pastimes of Krishna in the Krishna book as they've been passed down through disciplic succession. What's more, he also may be an enthusiastic distributor of prasad, being a connoisseur himself. Certainly, one of the most joyful and enthusiastic of our participants we've had to date. We thank you, Nitai Ram Prabhu, and we pray on this day, dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha and Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev. If you so desire, please bless and empower Nitai Ram Prabhu, that he'll always have the association of pure devotees and he'll relish that association, that he'll exclusively gravitate towards Krishna Katha in life, and that he'll have compassion in his heart for the fallen souls of the material world and help to spread the Sankirtan movement in meaningful ways. May he always be happy, healthy, a pleasure to his parents, a friend to all, and may he have success in all areas of his life. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer, in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I hereby declare this first grain ceremony to be complete success. Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Gaur Premanande.
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna.
Way to go, Nitai Ram. You're good.